everybody, welcome back to Making It Up. I'm Isa, and for those of you who are new here, welcome to my channel. Feel free to subscribe to see my videos every week. You cannot miss this face every Sunday. Anyways, today I have a slightly different video for you guys. It's a lot more informative. We learn a lot today, which is exciting. I see a lot of tutorials out there, and tutorials have helped me out a lot. I've learned so much from them, but they never really go in depth into eyeshadow application. So I know there are people who struggle with this, and honestly, it isn't the easiest thing in the world. Once you get used to it and you know what you're doing, it becomes super easy, but at first it can be a little bit tricky. So I just wanted to share my tips and tricks with you guys on how to apply eyeshadow. This is Eyeshadow 101. Okay, so if you're struggling with eyeshadow or you just want some new tips and tricks for your eyeshadow, then this is a video for you. Make sure to keep watching and let us do this. Okay, so first things first, I want to talk about what goes before the eyeshadow, and that is obviously eyeshadow primer. This is like one of my most important things I always tell everybody. Every time somebody asks me like, oh my god, what can I do to make my eyeshadows look better and make them blend better and make them last longer? And I'm like, use an eyeshadow primer. If you're not using an eyeshadow primer, you are not doing it right, honey. Eyeshadow primers are the way to go. They make everything so much easier. They make your looks so much more vibrant, and they help you with creasing and longevity. So if you're going to be wearing your eyeshadow for a long amount of time, and maybe you have oily eyelids, or maybe not, but you still crease, honey, use an eyeshadow primer. I have a few of my favorites over here. I love my MAC Soft Ochre Paint Pot. This is really nice, but I find I love this when I have like oilier lids, so in the summer, because it's a little bit of a drier formula, but it is a really, really good base. Also, for an affordable option, I love my Milani eyeshadow primer. It is really nice. This one isn't tinted, but it is really, really good to help you with the longevity of your eyeshadows. And then my favorite, if you've been watching me and my videos for a while, you know what's coming, but it's my Urban Decay eyeshadow primer potion in Eden. I think this one is discontinued, but they have another one that's really similar. And basically this is just a tinted eye primer, and Urban Decay has always had my favorite primers. And so yeah, this is my absolute favorite. And if you find that you don't have a lot of problems with creasing around your eye area or on your eyelids, we're talking about the eyelids today, I can also suggest that you do not spend all your money, well, not all your money, but you don't splurge or spend money on a primer, but use your own concealer. I cannot do this because my lids crease and stuff, but I know that there are people who don't have that problem, so you can easily just go in with your concealer or a little bit of foundation and set that, and that works as a primer as well. I know a lot of artists, makeup artists do this. I just prefer the primers, but if you don't have creasing problems, you can definitely use a concealer as a base. It also works very well. I'm also going to be doing a demo for y'all because why not? So I'm going to apply my primer first, and I'm using my favorite, the Urban Decay one, and we are doing this right now. Another thing that is super important is to not over apply primer, so don't apply too much, because that can also like be bad for your eyeshadow because it might start balling up, and you know, it'll be harder for you to blend, so just apply the right amount. You don't need a ton. Another thing that I see a lot of people do, and I do myself, is set my lid. Most of the times I go in with a bone color shadow or a translucent powder to set my lids, and I know that there are people who say they don't need to set their lids because setting your lids makes the eyeshadows you put on top a lot less vibrant, and it just doesn't have the same effect. But for me, setting my primer really helps with the blending process later on, and especially if you're not super like great at blending, doing something like this will ensure that blending is a lot easier for you as opposed to just going in with the colors and having the colors stick to the primer and then you can't really blend them out a lot. So yeah, it's up to whatever you want, but I definitely like to blend my lids to make things easier later. So now I'm going to move on to actual eyeshadow. One of the most important things for me is blending, guys. Blending is everything, whether you do a very simple look with only 2 eyeshadows or a very intricate look. Blending is key. So, I have a few blending brushes over here that I like to recommend. And honestly, I have a lot of blending brushes, and I know a lot of people have a lot of brushes, but you don't need a ton of brushes. I find that the only brushes you really need are a really big fluffy brush like this one. This one's from Studio Makeup. I got it like a billion years ago, and I really love this one to set my primer. And then something like this Bedazzle Tools 785, which is another blending brush, but it's a lot smaller, as you can probably tell. And this one really helps to blend but define the crease as well. And then if you want to go in with darker colors and only blend on the outer corners or on the lower lash line, I really like using smaller pencil brushes. And I like this one. This one's from Morphe. It came in a set, so it doesn't have a number. But this one's a little tapered, and it's still a little bit fluffier. And I really love this one to just blend slightly, well, not slightly, but more precise blending on the outer corners and the crease. Today I am using my Jaclyn Hill Morphe palette. I just got this, it's new, but I'm not going to be focusing on the shadows, I'm just going to be focusing on the technique. So I am going to teach you guys the easiest way to blend your eyeshadows. There are many people who do this in many different ways, and this is just the way that works for me. I've experienced with a few different techniques. I've gone to makeup school. There's a video on that. I'll leave it somewhere linked. And yeah, these are just the tips and tricks I've learned along the way. So if you guys want to know those tips and tricks, then definitely follow along. And if you have other tricks, let me know in the comment section. So first, I always love going in with a transition shade. And a transition shade for me is a color that is dark enough to show up on your lids, but it's also light enough so that it doesn't compete with a crease color. So today, I'm doing a very simple look. So I'm just gonna grab this one that is right here. This color right here, which is, fuck me, I don't know. Probably Silk Cream. I'm just gonna go in with my brush and tap off the excess, but I do like to pack the color in. So a lot of people like to build it up, and I like to do that as well, but I do find that I need quite a bit of product on my brush to start off, so I like to dip in a few times, do this, dip in a little more, and do this again. And it is, honestly, it is super simple. The only thing you need to do is locate your crease and start blending. It doesn't matter if it goes a little bit below or a little bit above the crease. That is what we're looking for, since this is just a transition shade. And honestly, you can blend it depending on how you want the shape of your shadow to look, but I am just doing a simple look today, so I'm just blending. And the way I like to blend is I like to do windshield wiper motions, and I also like to do like circles, little circles around my eyes to blend. And another thing that is super important is to blend gently. I find that when I'm doing it on other people, I do it super gently, but when I do it on myself, I like to be a little rougher. So one tip I have for this, if you hold it closer, it's going to look a lot more harsher, and it's going to be a little bit more difficult to blend. And if you hold it like farther apart from the bristles, it will make everything easier, and it'll look a lot softer, and you won't have to worry about blending so much. So once I've gone in with that, since this is going to be a look with a lot of similar colors, I'm not going to change my brush, but I definitely recommend changing your brushes if you're doing something a lot more technical and a lot more vibrant or more complicated, just to avoid making your eyeshadows look super messy. So now I'm going to go in with this shade right here. This is Pooter. And I'm just going to apply it again to my crease and the outer corner of my eye, but being a little bit more precise now. So we were a little bit more liberal when we were using the transition shade. Now we can be a little bit more precise. Again, super soft hand, and I'm going in. And also remember that blending takes time, So feel free to dip in as much as you want and diffuse as much as you want throughout the course of your makeup application. There's nothing wrong with going back in a lot of times. I mean, it's better if you do. And once we have that crease color, you can definitely intensify it more, or depending on which color you use, you can go in with different colors. But now I just want to add a little bit more definition to like my outer corner and outer crease. So I'm just gonna go in with an even darker brown color, and this one is Buns. I think it's this one right here. And I'm just gonna be applying this to the outer corner of my eye and a little bit into the crease with the smaller brush. And the key here is to go in with very little product and build it up just so that you're not like super intimidated by it. And once I've like placed it where I want it, I can go back in with the other brush and just slightly blend it out, and go ahead and do that as many times as I need to. And you can take this color in as much as you want to. It also depends on your eye shape. So definitely I recommend, if you're just learning on YouTube, watching videos from people who have like the same eye shape as you so that you can learn from their application, or just look it up online and stuff. So yeah, once you've applied that color onto the outer corners and made sure that you blended it with the other two colors, then you can move on to, well, eyeliner, or if you want to apply a color onto the lid, you can do that. Now for the lid, there are a lot of different methods or shadows or colors or whatever you can use. So usually I like to apply shimmery colors onto my lid, but I can also apply mattes as well. One thing that I do recommend is not going in with shimmery colors on your crease. I know there are a lot of people who say like don't do it. I know that there are some people who do it, so it greatly depends on you as well and how you like the look. What is this hair? But personally, I really like mattes on the crease, and I usually stick to my shimmers on the lid. To pack on my lid color, I definitely love using my fingers whenever it comes to a metallic or shimmery shadow, but I can also use packing brushes. My advice when finding a packing brush is find one that suits your eye shape and eye size, because I know that there are people who go in with things like this, and this is huge for my eye. Like, it's way too big, so it's gonna be a lot harder for me to just precisely apply this my shadow where I want to. But if I go in with something a little smaller, it becomes a lot easier for me. So if you have huge eyes, then definitely you can go in with this, but if you have small eyes, go in with something a little bit smaller, and that goes for every brush that I've mentioned. There are a lot of ways you can apply your shimmery shadows. One, you can do it with your finger and apply it onto the lid, and I find that that gives off a lot of payoff. There are definitely shadows that perform better than others, and some other ways that you can help with the payoff is you can go in with brushes and you can use Fix Plus. A lot of people wet their brushes with Fix Plus and then go in with the shadow, and that makes it a lot more intense. And there are people who do the same with setting sprays. I like to do it with water, just plain like water. It works amazingly as well. And then there are people who use concealer. I know that the whole like cutting the lid or half the lid thing has been really popular lately, but you can also do that, like apply a little bit where you want to, and that definitely intensifies your like shadow application as well. But today I am just going to go in with this shade right here. This is Beam. And first I'm going to apply this with my fingers, and then I'm going to go in with a brush that I dampen with a little bit of water to intensify it. And what I like to do is, okay, so I take my little finger and I apply a little bit of the color there, and then I just tap. And this is really pigmented, oh my god. I just tap it on like the, like 2/3 of my eye. I like to meet the color that we applied on the outer corner, and then just slightly blend it with my finger. And if you're doing something a little bit more intense, you can go back in with that brush and then blend the two colors together so that everything looks more seamless. And I'm gonna do that on the other eye. And now I'm gonna go in with a dampened brush and just, yeah, it intensified it a lot, you see? And just applying this where I applied it with my finger. And then blending out with this. Just so you can marry the two colors together. And you can blend it out as much as you need to. I also like to go in with the brush that we use to set our lids and just blend everything together. And as I've already mentioned before, you can definitely do this with different colors, different intensities. These are just like the basic steps that I like to do every single time I'm going to do a shadow look. So yeah, that is it for the lid color. Some other things that I like to do with my looks is definitely I like to go into the lower lash line, and that depends on the look that I'm doing, but usually I just like to take the transition color that I applied and just with a big brush or a small brush. Sometimes I'm lazy and I just use this. I just like to like hit it a little, you know? Connect it to like the upper lash line where the makeup or the eyeshadow stops so that it looks cohesive. Yeah, that's basically it if I just want a light wash on the lower lash line. But if I want something a little bit more defined, I'll go in with the color that I use on the outer corners and then just hit the outer corners, like the lower outer corners, with the tiny brush and blend a little bit and connect it, obviously. And that defines a little bit more and makes the lower lashes look a little bit more smoky as well. Another thing that I really like to do is hit my inner corners and my brow bone with a highlighting color. Now for the inner corners, I really like to use something shimmery. I'm going to use the same color that I used on my lids without any like wetting or anything. I don't want it to be as intense. And I'm just going to hit the inner corners. You see how it just instantly brightens up my eyes? It is a very, very easy trick to just brighten up. And then normally I like to go in with something that has a little bit more of a sheen as opposed to shimmer for my brow bone. But today I'm just going to use the same color and just hit a little bit just right beneath where my arch is, just to like lift my brows up a little bit. And then one last time I like to go in with the clean brush and blend everything out. And I think that is it for the eyes. I'm just gonna go do some mascara so that I don't look super weird, and then I will come back later. Okay, so after I've applied my mascara or a liner or whatever it is you do after eyeshadow, then the look is basically complete. And those were all of my eyeshadow tips. I really, really hope you enjoyed them. I hope you learned something from this if you're sort of like a new eyeshadow wearer or just someone who wants to learn more about eyeshadows. If you have any other tips that you've picked up along your years of makeup, then make sure to share them with me. I would really, really love to know and learn from you guys as well. So yeah, the comment section is there so that you can chat away. I always love it when you guys comment, so yeah. Thank you all so much for watching. I really, really hope you enjoyed this video and learned a lot, and I will definitely see you in my next video. Bye!